Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the return of Dungeons and Developer Insights. I'm joined by my co-host Linabelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's glad to be here.
Yeah, me too. Because today we're stepping in straight into hell, into the inferno, because we're looking at the hot takes, taking hot takes from you guys and discussing and giving our own hot spin on these hot takes, spicy ideas. Do you have any hot takes? Did you prepare anything? Do you have any ideas where you're like, this is my own spicy hot take?
Oh, my unpopular opinions,
Yeah,
things that I think that
yeah,
other people won't like.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Here's one for you. I think that we should restrict players to your racial tree, a universal tree, just one, and 3 class trees, regardless of how many classes you have.
Interesting. So instead of like having like 20 trees to pick from or whatever, you can just have a total of
A total of
four or
five.
five? A
That's
total of
right.
five?
Total of 5. Your racial tree you can't pick. Well, I guess you can because you pick a race.
Hmm.
You select from one of the universal trees if you'd like, and across all of your classes, you can only use 3 trees. So that's my hot take. Maximum of 5 trees.
That is definitely going to be divisive because right away I'm like, but I like mixing universal trees. That's kind of cool, like Vistani Night Fighter and Fate Illusionist and like Harper Agent, kind of putting all these things together in some really bad soup.
Yeah, well, it's like they wanted unpopular opinions, and that's mine. I think it would do great things for
Absolutely.
how much you need to think about your build. I think it would make multi-classing very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
yeah, I
like
think
that idea. I could get behind that if there was something on the same lines of you were also able to, like, if it was a total of 5 trees, but you could swap them out. So if I didn't want to use like one of my class trees, so let's say I didn't want to use Vanguard on a Paladin because I don't have a shield equipped, I could put in a different tree there instead. But I can see where you're coming
yeah,
from with that.
yeah. I mean, if it were 5 total, you didn't necessarily have to, but the presence of racial AP means I think that most people would pick a racial as one of their things.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I
What
mean,
if you could
there's a lot
swap
to.
out? Oh, man. You could swap out your racial tree. What if you could just swap out your racial... Sorry, I'm just getting off topic here. Anyway, that's a great hot take. I think there's definitely a lot of people that have very strong opinions about it, which is a good definition of a hot take.
Yeah, to be clear, as a little bit of a disclaimer, that's my hot take. That's not Standing Stone Games' opinion of what we're going to do. That's
No,
what
or anything
I
like that.
personally
Yeah.
think that other people would not like. That I would like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my hot take is I think that Dragonborn shouldn't be able to wear shoes.
In
They
general,
should have something else, but they shouldn't be able to wear shoes because they don't wear shoes in game in their models. So they just shouldn't wear shoes and should have something else. That's my hot take. Just no shoes. Get rid of it.
what else should they have? Just a blank spot?
I have no idea. Even if they just took away shoes, I just feel like they shouldn't have shoes.
That's fair. I could see that.
Yeah. No, no socks or sandals. No, 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 no,
Socks
no.
sales
That's even worse.
Dragonborn.
That's even worse. All right, so you ready to get into some hot takes?
All right, I'm ready.
All right. The first hot take coming up here is from Aedris, and they said some systems like crafting are outdated. That's not really important, but we need a checkpoint mechanic because losing 45 minutes of progress when you die to a trap or you can't run to a rest shrine is not fun. Death already has an XP penalty. Why not just make us respawn at a shrine? Checkpoint mechanic. It's a hot take because DDO is a game that's all about like kind of get through it one and done. That's how all the raids are designed. That's how all the dungeons are designed. How do you feel about checkpoint idea?
So, honestly, I don't like it. I think DDO is already too forgiving when it comes to the concept of death.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather, although actually let me think about this. If death were more of a penalty, like if, for example, if death penalties were some sort of percentage penalty, but were permanent until you actually recalled for sure, then yeah, respawn at a shrine, because there's still like some sort of inevitability.
Yeah. So for me, I'm in a similar thing. I think that quests, checkpoints would be bad because, I don't know, I think the quests are like, there's no really, really long adventures. Like losing 45 minutes on an adventure. Some people spend 45 minutes in quests, but that's super rare to have like a 45-minute quest. I think it's like basically just the
I mean,
Castle of
you'd be
Strahd.
surprised. We actually have access to that sort of data, and quest times vary wildly.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure. Like there definitely are some long quests like that, but I feel like that's sort of like I kind of think of like practice. I generally do like checkpoints in general in different types of games. I'd only like to see it maybe in like raids and DDO, Just that way we can have more bigger or longer raids. That's about it. I think the game is fine without checkpoints or anything else. Oh, that's true. There was that hour-long Crucible yesterday that I saw people doing. Very true.
I mean, like, you're looking at this from the perspective of a very established player, in which there's not a lot in DDO that really surprises you content-wise. But for a new player or someone who's not familiar with specific content, it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to know what's going on. It's difficult to figure out where you're going.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I will say that I play a lot of like those incremental games. So like, you know, or not incremental games, but like, you know, 2D side scrollers and that sort of thing, and platformers where you die, you just instantly respawn and you get to try again. And in DDO,
like a needle platformer sort of a thing. Like,
yeah,
I want to be the guy.
Like that. Yeah. Or like Super Meat Boy or something. And in at least you can usually see stuff. But in DDO, when you walk down a hallway and just get obliterated by a trap halfway through a quest, there is a bitter feeling to that. There is a bitter feeling to that for sure. So I don't know. I wouldn't even know how you would implement something like this, but I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I think people can go a lot of different ways on this one.
I mean, I know for a fact, a little bit of insider info, this would require modifying every single actual quest in the game, because we as designers, we can only teleport you to something that's called a telepad, and those have to be baked into the game. So we can't actually set you to a position without putting one of those places for you to spawn in at.
Right, that makes sense.
So this would be a bit of a haul to get this feature together.
All right, so that was the first hot take. So let's move on to another exciting hot take. And this is from Chase, and they say DDO should have more opportunities to use swimming mechanics in quests. We have a whole swim skill that's going underused. And I agree. More swimming and more quests. I think that one of the problems is people get complacent. You know, they do Feywild, and there's like one underwater swimming section. You know, what they need is way more swimming sections. We need more raids with swimming. Okay? Like we had Titan, lots of swimming in Titan. We had Tempest Spine, lots of swimming in Tempest Spine. How come you don't swim in Strahd? You know? He's got a big castle. There's got to be some pit or dungeon with lots of water in it.
His indoor pool.
Yeah. You telling me this guy has a castle and doesn't have a jacuzzi? Come on.
There's a jacuzzi full of blood, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I could go swimming in that. My character, you know, causes bloodbaths wherever you go.
Yeah, I would like to say that not only do I think DDO swimming is really cool, but it's an interesting sort of dexterity challenge that other games don't really have, like the swim in the Crucible.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of DDO that can be challenging without challenging your character's stats, if that makes sense. Like, it's challenging you directly.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. I think that one of the problems is that there's so many challenges in DDO that are entirely based on like your stats. You know, do you have enough like hit chance to be able to beat this monster? Do you do enough damage? There's certainly like an element of play that goes on with how you attack monsters and dodge their attacks. But platforming and swimming are completely outside of that because there's no monsters. It's just you versus the game at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we could also put monsters underwater.
Oh, piranhas. Or more funny, exciting, advanced Dungeons and Dragons monsters that are piranha-like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we actually have fish, per se. Do we have fish?
There's, as far as are there fish underwater? Maybe. There's Sahagin, for sure. That's another one.
Fish people, yeah. Sharks would be good.
Yeah, sharks would be a great example. Yeah, swimming sections that have sharks in them that you can't defend yourself from. You just have to swim away. Yeah, there are swimming mechanics sometimes, like in the 2 underwater quests. You've got Legend of the Lost Locket and whatever the one is in Red Fens, where you have to like do the swimming. But I feel like those things aren't entirely the same as like actually having a whole swim skill. Like I think of that Tomb of the Shadow Guard, which is the one where there's literally 20 minutes of swimming underwater in that quest.
I love that.
And it's just an underwater maze. And some people love it and some people hate it. I like that quest personally, but it's really hard to get people to do it.
Ironically, swimming is a breath of fresh air.
Ironically, it is a breath of fresh air. It's a big departure. So there's that. All right, I have another hot take for you. This one might be a little bit hotter. However, it's also by somebody named Chase. And it is, so it's with the introduction of con-based lay on hands from Unyielding Sentinel, fighters and rogues and everybody else can have power of healing equal to a paladin, making the paladin obsolete. And you could remedy this by doing something with paladins or blah blah blah. But the hot take is fighters are better paladins than paladins. Now, I thought this is a great hot take because I personally totally disagree that fighters are better paladins than paladins because you don't get as many lay on hands. But how do you feel about that? Like, you know, Unyielding Sentinel just gives a class feature to somebody, to another class, and they could be better. What's your take on that?
I mean, it's kind of complex because, like, on one hand, paladins are just objectively better fighters in every respect. And on the other hand, like, it's not like this doesn't also help paladins, like this sort of change. Yeah, I don't know. From what I understand, paladins right now are extremely, extremely, extremely strong on like every single possible level.
Oh yeah, paladins are great. I love my paladin. That's also I want to include this because I'm like, I don't think fighters are better than paladins, but at the end of the day, I do love me some paladins, and I like dunking on fighters and fighter players. So I just wanted to bring this one up. I think that the giving like classes and class features being available to other things like fighters or rogues, as an example, they put it here, being able to have lay on hands. I don't know. I think it's cool that there's like things you can't predict how they're actually going to go. In terms of, you know, you put it out in the world and you say, hey guys, you can do this, and then somebody puts something together that might actually work better than the core source. But I still don't think anyone does it better than Paladin. Maybe Sorcerer.
Yeah. I mean, like that's kind of the whole Epic Destiny shtick is that, like, you know, you get part of a large class mechanic, and I'm pretty sure what this person really means, if I can put words to their mouth, is that fighter doesn't have a set of mechanics like paladins do that other classes can borrow or steal.
That's
like
true, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, like paladins have a lot of stuff. So when that stuff gets spread around, it's very easy to go like, oh, well, other classes are related to paladin. But it's very difficult for a class to become more like a fighter.
That's true. Like, you've got Paladin Smites, Divine Crusader, Lay on Hands, Unyielding Sentinel, Turn Undead, Exalted Angel. It's all Paladin, baby. Fighter,
yeah, the entirety of Divines is all Paladin.
Fighter, you just click the mouse a bit. You keep clicking, things go down.
I mean, that's very much Dungeons and Dragons. And I feel like that's like kind of by design. Like that's their identity, you know. And whether or not that's a good idea is a very interesting question. Like, yeah, maybe we do need like just more fighter only feats, because that's something that, like, you know, other classes can't get, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to address something that fire sorcerers need a huge buff. So what you're actually looking at, this picture back here, is actually the energy burst from a fire sorcerer. I just took a screen cap of it. So they're pretty good right now. So just in case it's right there, you can already see the blast in the background. So that's they're
Here,
good.
cold is finally coming around.
Cold is very fun. Plus all the spells look really good, and also that new time stop. Oh man, have you seen time stop? Do you see that animation?
I have seen time stop.
Like, my first reaction when I saw it was, this looks too good. It looks like it should be in like Final Fantasy or something, where like the game freezes and all these like weird effects come out, and it's very cool. Little clocks go over everybody's head. It's very neat. All right.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how all the visuals came out. Like, seems pretty cool.
Let's move on to the next very hot take from Danny, who says, platforming is one of the most unique and fun things in the game, and we need more dungeons that have harder platforming, or at least optional platforming to chests, or difficult platforming to chests. This is kind of in the same vein as like swimming. I took this as a hot take because so many people hate platforming that in one of the new adventures that came out, the Salt Marsh, there's like this bullywug quest, and you have to jump on these poles, and people hate it so much that there was a patch that added a ladder in, so you didn't have to do that. And like optional.
I think that platforming is the most unique part of DDO, up there with swimming. I think it's great. I absolutely support way more platforming in dungeons, like 100%. That being said, like, there's very, very big difference between like, oh, I can't do this dungeon because I'm like, you know, under level, or my stats don't measure up, or I don't know where to go. versus I can't do this dungeon because I literally don't have enough jump, and therefore it's physically impossible.
Right.
And what's really interesting about that is it means that there's like a minimum or a maximum difficulty that our platforming can be because it has to work without jump.
Yeah, or it has to
which
like
I think
give it
is
to you somewhere in the quest.
yeah, which I think is kind of a waste. I kind of want to see an abashedly difficult, like an unashamedly only experts jump around sort of a challenge that would entirely be about whether or not you can platform in this game.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so there's like the nebula fragment, right? It's a super rare thing, and then once you get it, you go around and you touch all these shrines all over the world in these really hard to find places, and you get this cool item. How would you feel conceptually about the idea of having either a powerful or unique item that may be locked behind a very difficult jumping challenge? Do you think it would be at all okay to tie that to itemization?
I would say yes, because an item being powerful and quote unquote necessary for a gear set doesn't mean it's necessary to actually play the game. Like you have to do dungeons in order to level up. Like that's a necessary part of DDO.
Yeah.
Like that's the gameplay loop is you get into a dungeon and you finish the dungeon and you get the rewards. And there are certain items that might make that easier, but there's not a place in the entire game where you literally need a specific item in order to complete content in order to play the game.
Right.
And so even putting a sufficiently powerful thing behind there, as long as it doesn't become like literally necessary, like you actually have to have on your inventory or else like a door doesn't open, then yeah, that makes sense to me.
Cool. I love that idea. I would love to see just some random quest where there's like, hey, here's extreme, like, do you know how in the Servants of the Overlord, there's like some of those optionals that say extreme difficulty on them? There's like some jumping optional.
You gotta close that portal, pull that lever for like 6.5 minutes. It's
yeah,
great.
exactly. But like that, but you had like extreme difficulty and it's some jumping puzzle that's like 8 minutes long.
I mean, I could do better than 8 minutes.
Oh man. I'm just imagining a dungeon where if you fail, you like slip and fall and it kicks you out of the quest or something, or it kills you. Sort of like how in Von 6 when you fall.
Yes, although that was definitely kind of the inspiration for the Nebula Fragment scavenger hunt. Was like, what if I just put something really cool down there and it all kind of spiraled out of control? Yeah, I think it's important though. That's like, doing some cool platforming is one thing, but a sufficiently difficult platforming challenge would probably not include things like Abundant Step as a requirement, because those are like class features, you know what I mean? And like I think it'd be reasonable to assume that like, hey, if you're doing a jumping challenge, probably bring some jump potions, or put them in the quest. But like, if you're doing a jumping challenge, respec into Favored Soul seems really difficult from a gameplay perspective. It's a big ask.
It's not too bad now because like if let's say it's like a level 30 dungeon or something, then you can just be like, oh yeah, just use the Exalted Angel thing and everyone can do it. But yeah, if it's level 3, it might be a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of platforming. I'm a exceptionally a huge fan of it.
Yeah, I'm okay with things that are difficult as long as like as you said, you don't have to do it. If every quest in the game or it's a requirement to complete a quest, I can see people being upset about it. But like if it's an optional piece or it's in like one quest out of the 3,000 DDO or however many there are, it's not like that big of a deal.
If this were 6 or 7 years ago, and this was like like a dungeon coming out couldn't be completed without platforming, that would kind of be a problem because at that time the idea of a content drought was very prevalent in people's minds. But now there's not necessarily a part in DDO where you're like, oh, I'm literally out of quests. Like you don't actually have to do every single thing. So if a dungeon doesn't appeal to you, or you don't like it, or you don't want anything from it, you don't actually have to do it. Like just go have fun in the dungeons you do really like.
All right, ready to move on to the next hot take?
Yes.
They only get hotter.
Okay.
Right, here we go. From Fox King Crop, says the pit is DDO's best designed dungeon by far, and they even give you a guide in game with second place going to the Crucible with a soft spot for Rainbow in the Dark. Is the pit the best designed dungeon by far?
No. It's Siegebreaker. It's my favorite dungeon. It's got everything. It's got the best voice acting. It's got the best mechanics. It's got a very inventive explosion sort of experience. It's got a bizarre clickies.
It does have a lot of bizarre stuff in it. It has a whole part where you befoul the water supply.
That's a war crime.
It's literally a war crime, and you get to do it in DDO.
You can't do that. Like,
you can't do that in real life, but you can do it. Just like how you can't cast fireballs, you can't do war crimes, but you can do it in DDO at the same time. You actually have to do both in that quest. You have to cast fireballs to blow up tents.
Yes, we did fix that, by the way, for an upcoming patch. Because right now the tents are having some problems remembering that they're supposed to light on fire.
Well, the Droiam army upgraded. They just got like a higher quality of tent that doesn't ignite. So
it's made out of like Kevlar. Like it's not actually flammable. No, I like we've been doing riffs off of things like the Pit and the Crucible for a while, like dungeons of similar complexity and variety in gameplay. But Rainbow is actually what I really wanted to call out because its darkness mechanic is completely unique.
It is completely unique, yeah.
It's completely unique, and I think I'm not going to say underutilized, but like Rainbow does a really, really good job of thinking about what game mechanics would be totally different in Complete Darkness. Like, for example, walking along a narrow path, in regular DDO, that's very easy, but like in Complete Darkness, like, ooh, that's a challenge. And it shows off of our honestly pretty sophisticated dynamic lighting. So I've always had this idea for a dungeon that I really want to do that I don't know how to make because I'm not really good at this, where you'd actually get like 2 or 3 torches, and it's a haunted house. And like you have to like split the party. And like,
jinkies.
Like it's a Scooby-Doo thing, but like you actually have to like bring light to certain areas and stuff like that. You
can even have something where like you light up a wall and it like shows only something with a certain torch, and someone's somewhere else in the house and they're trying to like put in a combination or something.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cool ideas. Yeah, as far as like DDO or the Pit is the best designed dungeon, I can't call it the best designed dungeon. I think it's probably one of the best very old dungeon designs, for sure. Like, because if I was to show somebody a quest to be like, hey, this is an example of what you can do in DDO, it's, you know, a dungeon that will make you quit the game permanently because you spent 4 hours in there and you can't figure it out, and then some people do it in 12 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's it is, I would say, a really good example of the kinds of varied gameplay that you can get in this game. Although, honestly, I feel like, this is my real hot take, opinions about the Pit are super duper overdone. It's not very difficult. And honestly, we've really outdone it. Like, we've done better dungeons that I think are way, way better designed. Like the one where you go into people's minds at the end of the Feywild prequel.
Yep, and you have all the different areas that you go into with the different puzzles and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like infinitely better than the Pit. And the Pit's pretty good, but like we've built better stuff since then. It's not actually that difficult to do. I don't think it's that much of a challenge. Like I really don't. It's pretty cool, but like I don't think it's that difficult at all.
Honestly, the hardest part about the Pit is having feather falling because of jumping puzzles. So, all right, you ready to move on to the next hot take? This is a spicy one. This is a really hot one. All right. Coming in from Horse, who says, our horses should be able to climb ladders in town and safe areas.
Just like with their legs?
Yeah, horses can climb ladders. Yeah, 100%.
In real life? Absolutely not. They 100%. Cannot.
Yeah, just imagine the horse goes and it like hooks its little horse hooves in and it just kind of like and climbs up the ladder.
But have you ever seen a horse in real life? They don't do that.
I mean, I can't say I can say that I personally haven't seen that, but I'm not saying that it can't happen.
Can you even climb a ladder like in real life?
Me?
Looks really difficult. Yeah.
If you lie it flat on the ground, you bet I can. And so could a horse. Think about it like this. We have areas in the game, okay, that have ladders, and druids and artificers get their pets to climb ladders as well. Can a wolf climb a ladder? Can a horse climb a ladder?
Counterpoint, that breaks those pets. So obviously we shouldn't let the horses do that.
It actually does break both the pets when they go up. Then they stop doing anything. Yeah, if your artificer pet goes up a ladder, it stops working.
That's correct.
So, if you ever wondered why your artificer pet sometimes stops entirely, it's because it went up a ladder. So
yeah, ladders are they plague video games. there was this one bug that people went into detail with. I think it was the Outer Wilds or the Outer Worlds. It's the steampunk version, not the spaceship one.
Yeah.
Where like in this game has companions that have their own little stories. So you have to like make sure the companions are alive so you can do the story. And people were finding that the companions were actually dying while you're like on your spaceship where there shouldn't be any combat and they're not allowed to die. And what ended up happening was the companions would climb up a ladder, and while they were on a ladder, you would open some sort of inventory, which would prevent anyone from doing any emotes, except getting off a ladder is actually an emote, so they would just keep climbing. And I mean, like,
Oh, no.
keep climbing. So they would go miles and miles and miles above the game space, just like floating in midair as they would animate upwards, 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 upwards. And then you like closed your inventory after 20 minutes, and they would fall to their death and die.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I had no idea. That's awesome.
No, that's like, don't ever put ladders in a video game.
Yeah,
Even
this is
modern
why.
games have horrible problems with
Yeah,
them.
this is why ladders are cutscenes in video games.
Yes, like don't
You
don't
press
put-
X and your character climbs the ladder, and then they're at the top. You don't
Yeah.
get to play with the ladder. Oh man. All right. Our next hot take comes from Horse, who says horses should be permanently attached to the bottom of our characters. There's no reason to be using our crappy garbage humanoid legs. Mounted stuff in quests. How do you feel about that?
I don't like it. DDO's quests can often feel claustrophobic in a way that other video games cannot, and they would feel extra super duper claustrophobic. We moved your camera up 6 feet.
I forgot that the camera moves up too in like the harbor. That would be difficult. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah, like you'd be looking at a lot of floor, a lot of ceiling, a lot of upper walls.
Yeah, some of the quests in DDO do have really short ceilings as well, like some of the house quests and things, where you're like in these small little cramped areas.
Mhm.
So does this mean that a design for a centaur is like
Will they be
off
on
the-
like
you know,
a
off the
they'd be
table?
on like a skateboard, but like kneeling down. So like it would be like smaller, but like they'd be able to roll around.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because then you've got the you can just go on the skateboard and they're just gonna push themselves around. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they can
can't
never climb
ladders.
they can never climb a ladder.
All right, our next controversial opinion, our hot take, comes from Four Eyes. Oh, I get it now. Anyway, my hot take is that there should not be different enhancement trees with extremely similar abilities. So like paladin, fighters, and druids all having a defensive tree that is kind of the same, but like just a little bit different. Or like sorcerers who have like the 4 different savant trees. I am pretty much kind of inclined to agree. I feel like classes should have different trees as opposed to similar ones. What do you think?
I agree in the opposite direction. I think that we should condense trees that are similar. And because like right now, Vanguard and Vanguard are actually 2 different things. Like you could take both.
Yeah, they're
We can't
completely
take
different
both.
trees. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I feel like we should. This is kind of related to like max you out at 3 enhancing trees sort of thing. We should have fewer trees that are shared between more classes. So like Vanguard would be in like Paladin, Fighter, and then I don't know who else would have Vanguard. Bard, maybe. You know what I mean?
Oh, people love playing Vanguard swashbucklers. People love it.
I
get asked questions about that all the time. How do I make a Vanguard swashbuckler? I'm like, don't do that.
Why not? It's beautiful. It's the perfect build. Bard, Fighter, Rogue, or Bard, Fighter, Artificer if you're super spicy. It's like, it's the perfect intersection of form and function. There's everything you've ever needed. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. When I look at it, I see like, Sacred Defense, Stalwart Defense, and Nature's Protector are the 3 trees. I don't mind the idea of like kind of like a shared stance between them, but like the fact that all 3 stances are basically just the same thing, and then you have like other skeletons of trees. I kind of do wish there was like more difference between some of those things. But then again, then you'd have more abilities on Paladin, which sounds like what people
yeah,
don't want.
we can't give more things to Paladin. That the idea is right out.
Yeah. Either that or you have to like make up new things for fighter and druid. So I don't really know what the answer is, but I kind of would prefer if there were less similar trees.
What if?
Yeah.
And this is a weird idea I just had. What if rather than having 3 different stances that are on like the same toggle key, so you can't have more than one?
Yeah.
All of these trees did was buff the actual original defensive fighting stance.
Oh, so instead of actually having like their own stance that is defensive fighting, we just use the one in the video game called defensive fighting.
Yes.
Hmm. That would make a lot more sense, I think, for people that come from pen and paper to choose to fight defensively as like an action. So people are used to being like, "Oh, I'm ending my turn. I fight defensively," and then, the
Yeah,
stuff happens.
I think it goes back to like because like we tried that really a lot with the Epic Destinies about how rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, like for example, in like Divine Crusader, it's like, oh, I want to do law damage on hit. Well, there's already a feat that does law damage on hit. What if instead we just buff the law damage on hit that we already have?
Hmm.
Sort of a thing. And so it's kind of using up the same design space we already have and enhancing it. So like, if hypothetically speaking, rather than making its own defensive stance, buffing that up, it just buffs the part of your character. Like it could open up both interesting synergies between the trees, but like they could also buff different aspects of it.
That makes sense. So imagine like defensive fighting, instead of it just being like 2% armor class or whatever useless thing it does, it has like a few couple abilities that it does when you press it, and then each class has its own interaction with the stance or something.
Yeah, and like rather than like maybe swashbuckling, because swashbuckling the stance is incredibly popular, and that tree already has synergy with precision. So rather than swashbuckling being its own stance, what if it all just buffed the precision stance? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
So it's
then
like one less toggle, but like if you've got another tree out there that buffs precision, then you can mentally make the connection in your head. You're like, well, they're buffing the same stance. You know what I mean? And the end result is less like design complexity on one level, but more on the other. You
yeah,
know?
because you just have fewer things that have a different name, but then now you have more options to build because everyone's using the same name. So instead of having like, one stance, one stance, and one stance, you now combine all three of them.
Yeah, and it's like because that's the thing is like Nature's Protector and Stalwart Defender and stuff like that. Those all have different abilities on their stance. You know what I mean? Like they give different things
Yeah.
as part of that. But like that's already the differentiation because the base ability is actually identical from what I understand.
The Paladin Fighter one are the same, and then the Druid one is slightly different because you can use it while raging.
Okay. Well, if like maybe the Druid one just has a low hanging thing that says like you can now use it while ranging. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, like I feel like that's a way of somewhat solving the enhancement trees that are sort of close, sort of a thing.
Yeah, I could
Um,
see that.
I don't know. We have a lot of ideas on the team that would require simply making a different video game in order to get them done. Like just simply like roll back the clock 15 years and or redesign the entire thing from the ground up.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like, what if we just instead of spending our time doing this, spend the next 15 years building a time machine, then go back and do, whatever.
oh my gosh, what a genius idea! That's
All right, time to move on to the next hot take. Hot take comes from Infinitely, who says the restriction for non-VIPs to be able to open quests on any difficulty should get removed, if not for all players, or at the very least for premium players that paid money. How do you feel about that one?
I don't know if it's a good idea for me to comment on things that directly make us money.
For
That being
sure.
said, I've worked on this game for like 5, 6 years now, and I didn't actually know this until literally less than a month ago. But we actually sell per quest bypass on the difficulties. Like I didn't even know we had those in the store,
I also
and
just
we
recently
do.
learned that, yeah.
Yeah, and like if we actually do sell this bypass, but nobody knows about it because it's not good, then like what if like it seems like there's obviously there's room for improvement here. And like I don't know, maybe there's a future where it is like a premium thing that you buy, or maybe it just goes away entirely. I mean, we're certainly capable of making drastic swings in how we expect to monetize. Like Epic Destiny's now being free for everyone. That's
Mm-hmm. That's
huge.
a big
That's a
change.
yeah, that's
It
a
used to be 1,000 DDO points, and now it's
yeah, and
0.
like that's a honestly a pretty brutal paywall for someone who's just trying to pick up the game. And like
Yeah.
the idea that we could be like, hey, these sorts of things, like we have to look at the long term health of the game. Let's change it up. So it's not like we're incapable of changing our monetization even on such a severe level.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. On the flip side, though, I kind of like giving cool things to VIPs.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective on it is like from a difficulty standpoint and perspective, people that are just getting started should not play elite difficulty because then they're just going to get bodied. They don't like if they know Dungeons and Dragons, they might understand some things, but like, man, if you don't know like what's going on, you hit by a lightning bolt from a kobold and you insta die. Like Hardcore League is a perfect example of how many people have a very bad understanding of as to how hard DDO can be when you have nothing because they play for a while and they forget about it and that sort of stuff. And so the progression
it's rough. Like
yeah,
my
like
main has like, you know, like 35 or so epic past lives or something. And so as a consequence, I start the game with like 100 hit points and things can't hit me. So I can fight through all of Korthos completely naked and just like, you know, manhandle people and just do the old like 1-2 kick.
yep.
And it's really fine and it's fun and I can play them on Elite. And like the expectation that a new player would have seeing that they could probably do the same thing, I think would really discourage people from giving the game a try.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's a psychological part of this. The idea that like, oh, well, I'm on my own. I can only play easy difficulties. That's what my character is for. But if I group up, not only can I play harder difficulties, but I can also actually play those harder difficulties because like if you've got more people, it's easier.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think it's like a perspective sort of thing. People see like elite and Reaper mode as like the people that have been playing for a long time will see it as like kind of like the default mode, but the default mode is normal, and we all started there. Like everybody started out on normal because that's how you learn where traps are, because you get hit by them and you go, oh shit, but you're not dead. Versus elite where you would be dead and you'd have to restart. So
what I did back when I started is I simply joined every single group I could find and died atrociously, and I had to get dragged to the finish line. And then my second life was a monk, and I was even worse. And then I learned the game.
figure it out after, exactly. Just die
yes,
a few times.
Yeah. No, it's like DDO has a very long learning curve because compared to other online games, DDO is very, very, very difficult. The idea that you could succeed most of the way through a quest and then fail and then get nothing is very difficult, and the kind of rewards and the kind of cadence that someone who's familiar with traditional MMOs would really get confused and discouraged by unless we try and help them along. And part of the way we can do that is we can continue to encourage public grouping. So like not to just like segue into something I've been wanting to say, you know how when you make a public group, it wipes your comments?
Yeah.
Not anymore. Fixed it.
That's so exciting. Right. That's the only reason I don't want to use public groups is like, oh, this is so convenient. But then I have to like always type in what thing I'm doing every time. I'm like,
yeah, as it turns out, the functionality was always there. It just wasn't hooked up.
Oh, man.
So hocus pocus, tape that together.
Oh, wow. That's so poggers. Damn, man.
Yeah, and like, so if we can keep, because like this public grouping update seems good, and this is another step in that thing, but like if we can keep encouraging players, especially new players who are unfamiliar with the content, to, you know, to group up and find each other, then it's like, you know, players will learn. They'll learn faster, and they'll be able to share what they've learned and you know, experience that kind of a game.
Yeah, because as a reminder, Hardcore League coming out in 2 days from now. Play in groups. Don't play by yourself. It's easier. It's faster. There's 1 million people playing because everyone's flooding in. Please play in groups. It's so much better. Thank you.
I'm really excited for this season. I'm excited to see how this kind of thing, because it's like this is a rerun of our first season with, you know, shared rewards from before. So like I'm excited to see you know, how it does. I'm excited to see if people are excited for those kinds of rewards they could have gotten before but didn't, or tried to and didn't get there in time, or weren't a VIP or weren't even playing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
I think it'd be cool.
Let's move on to the next hot spicy take, which is from Ipsum. Automatic damage, immunity bypass, and heroics, like what Alchemist gets at 12, is silly.
I agree. Remove it from the whole game.
The automatic bypass, immunity bypass, or immunity bypass?
Immunity bypass in general should not be a thing. That's my hot take. Should not be a thing. Instead, certain spells should bypass reduction just for themselves.
So, like for example, like if I'm playing like a lightning sorcerer or something, like I'd have one lightning spell that bypasses, but the rest don't.
Yeah, like at level 12 or something, you get an enhancement that says Lightning Bolt now works even against lightning immune enemies. And Lightning Bolt now does 100% damage, or maybe 50% damage. But you only get Lightning Bolt, though, to be able to do that. So you'd be able to somewhat do some lightning damage if you really had to, but mostly it'd be better if you just used other spells. It's kind of what I want. I think the arty one is the only one I think is good.
Yeah, because you have to use the rune arm.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, I think that I don't like the always active thing that alchemists get and then sorcerers get later on and druids get and whatever, because I feel like there's no gameplay. It's just like you just take away an element from monsters, which is cool, but it doesn't make like my sorcerer experience more interesting. It does make it better because then you just blow stuff up, but it doesn't make it more interesting. And I've been playing a bunch of that Diablo 2 remaster, and in that one, once you get to hell, every monster in the game has at least one immunity on it. In the entire game, every monster has an immunity. So if you pick one element or one damage type, you're always going to hit a boss or a group pack of monsters you cannot kill in any capacity. Or you have to diversify your abilities. And I actually like it because you have to think about what you're doing and maybe make different types of decisions. And so I don't like the automatic bypass that you get.
Yeah, I also think that as it's implemented right now, it's just not fun because the first hit doesn't work. Like, I don't think.
The first hit doesn't work. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's
so like, the whole thing I think is just not. It's not good. It definitely needs improvement. I think there's a gigantic, like we've been on the dev team. We've been like collecting a whole bunch of lists of things that we would want to do to like modernize spellcasting as a whole, and like looking at immunities as a concept is something we could definitely improve upon. And yeah, like I think there's definitely room for improvement because like we don't ever want spellcasters to feel like they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like the idea that a fire sorcerer would find like an iron golem or something and be like, oh man, I can't do this whole quest. That's bad. We don't want that. You know what I mean? We want players to look at this and go like, oh, iron golem, memory bells are ringing. You know what I mean? Heals from fire. That's bad. I should use other element, or I could use something that's like we make a new spell that's like heat metal. You know what I mean? And it specifically deals with fire iron golems. So you'd also be like, oh, I'm gonna do oh my gosh, the not Relic of the Sovereign Past dungeon that's in the Black Anvil Forest.
Oh yeah, that one.
Made to order.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In your head, you're like, made to order, 85 iron golems. I should bring heat metal. And like that would like because like DDO really wants to reward you for being prepared.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. Like when a DDO player goes like, oh, it's a good thing I brought this, or like, oh, it's a good thing I remembered this, or like, oh, I know I'm doing this, I might as well do this. That's really good. That's something that our game does better than anybody else. And like we can encourage that if we can make that moment-to-moment gameplay, pull that sort of thing in, it's so much more engaging than just firing and forgetting. It's like if we diversify people's gameplay, they get less burnt out.
How would you feel about the automatic bypass, but there's like a big penalty for doing it, so it's a trade-off? Like Alchemist, you get bypass on whatever element you get. Downside, you can't cast anything else. So like you wouldn't be able to cast any of the other elements. Any spells use any other elements, you couldn't cast them.
Oh,
the game would just be like no. So you try to cast like the poison breath or something as a fire alchemist, and it just says no.
I don't know, because like right now we already don't have enough incentives for you to do double or split, like double or triple elements. Although the changes in epics really help with that. Especially the feats, like the savant feats and the spell power feats. I feel like was a gigantic step forward in supporting more than one element at a time for a character.
Yeah.
But like there's still more work to do. We can do more work on that. It's fine. I kind of feel like my problem with this immunity bypass is not that it doesn't have enough downsides. It's that the gameplay it actually encourages, while it is working, is not gameplay we want to encourage. You know, like it doesn't encourage spell selection in the moment. That encourages a rotation you plan out ahead of time because you know, well, I can't even use poison. You know.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. All right, now I got another hot take for you. This one is a crowd favorite, so I just want to include it.
All right.
Which is from Jake. He says, not enough lag. Not
enough lag?
Yeah, hot take, not enough lag.
All right, you want us to put the Reaper bonuses back? We can put them back in the feat system if you want.
Is there a way to like get the DDO connection to run so it's like classic, like old school dial-up and stuff? Is there a way we can do that from like the actual server center, so everyone just has like an extra,
So yes, there
half-second of
is.
ping?
We actually do have a server authoritative like maximum bit rate. So if
Oh,
you
sick! So
wanted
you can just
to,
chunk it down. Yeah,
yes, we could we
just
could
throttle it like your
pause
like your
back loss if
ISP.
we really wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, we could also just like hit the server with a fire axe if we really wanted to. Doesn't mean it's a good idea, you
Yeah,
know.
just pour some Coca-Cola on the thing.
Yeah, like throw a water balloon in the stack and close the door, like if we really had to, But
It would prevent it from igniting. That'd be a good idea. Wait,
yeah,
maybe?
water is you hear water cooled, so
Yeah,
cool is
it's a
good.
counter.
So you
It's a
should
counter,
add
yeah.
water to the data center.
Yeah,
Um,
water cool it. Get a big bucket of water.
No,
Oh
the good
man.
news is that this Reaper thing that we did, it seems like it made a big difference. But the actual really big good news is that this is something we were able to, with our new way of looking at data, we're able to go, okay, we know exactly how bad Reaper is. We can fix this and move to a less stressed way of doing this. And we're able to see a distinctive difference in our charts. Like we absolutely know this made a difference.
Yeah.
And we know that our data is accurate. So if we just keep using that data and keep targeting things, then we're going to end up with more behind the scenes changes that from the players, nothing will change except there's less latency.
Yeah, which would be nice. Speaking
Yeah.
of Reaper changes, there was a hilarious change that went through that I think was accidental, where you get health now from the magic tree instead of spell points.
Yeah, we
Um,
figured that out maybe 6 or 7 minutes after we pressed the go button for building the thing. That's too late. So I
okay.
believe that's in this upcoming patch getting switched back over again. Or
It's,
it already did get switched? I
no,
forget.
it's definitely still in the game.
Okay.
Cool.
Well,
I just want to let you know.
DDO is about to get more difficult, TM.
There we go. More challenge, more difficulty. It's
Yes.
almost like adding extra lag. All right, I got another
In
hot. Oh, go ahead.
variety, ways, a manner of speaking, yes.
So I got another hot take for you, which is, this comes from my poem. It says, Horizon Walker is the best range tree for all builds, and if you don't use it, you're losing because you get extra range power, and you get extra Archer's Focus extension, and a fortification debuff. So regardless of which type of ranged weapon you happen to be using, even if you're not using a bow. So I don't know the math on this one. I cannot confirm if this is actually true, because I'm not a nerd. I'm not going to sit here and do calculations or something. But how do you feel about trees that just mathematically, not thematically, so it's not like, Inquisitive, which is all themed and dual crossbow and shooter and stuff, but just mathematically gives you more numbers than something else when it maybe isn't supposed to? Or not even isn't supposed to, but it's not like the cool option,
I mean, like you got to think of like for me, there's a scale of design. On one hand, you have purely analytical, on the other hand, you have purely aesthetical. And like for me, I'm all the way over here on the aesthetics. I'm all the way into the narrative of gameplay. I'm all the way into play feel rather than into number crunchy sort of land. Like when I design stuff, the numbers happen last. That's the last thing I do is fill in the numbers. And I change the numbers all the time based off of, I don't know, data or something. But like that is like the last thing on my mind is whether or not something is mechanically good. For me, it's all about serving that aesthetical narrative.
Right.
And if it turns out that Horizon Walker has more numbers and therefore is the most betterer, then that to me just looks like a very solvable problem. It's overperforming numerically, we can just turn it down numerically. Because that's like how numbers work. That's no problem. For me, the problem arises when we have trees that don't have any of the aesthetics, according to them. If they aren't thematic, if they aren't cool and fun to play, they don't have good things you can do and good things that like make you feel cool about using, because that's very difficult to change in the moment.
Yeah.
Like that's way, 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 way more difficult to go back to the drawing board and change everybody's stuff. And so if someone's like, hey, 30 unique range power is just too strong, in my head I'm just like, that's great, put it down to 20.
Yeah, just like change a number.
Care. It's a number. It's a number in a file somewhere. Like it's incredibly easy for us to change. Like this is a solvable problem compared to like, oh geez, Horizon Walker isn't fun.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that would be something I would look at in my head. I'd be like, oh no, like that's not good. How do we fix that problem? Someone's not having fun. and that's very, very different than like, balance, because like DDO's balance changes all the time. Like
It does.
constantly moving numbers around.
And the new Epic Destiny's just changed everything, so.
Yeah.
It's
It's like really silly to like, because like in a vacuum, like for example, if Horizon Walker were just like super duper overpowered, like preposterously overpowered, like it was like 300 range power or something like that. But Epic Destinies were so terrible for range that you couldn't justify playing it. Then like, is it even that strong? Kind of a thing. Like
yeah.
there was full of that, of like things that are imbalanced because of other imbalances that kind of like cancel out, you know?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't really have like a really strong opinion on this one. It's mostly just like, I don't know. Numbers are numbers. I've never been super motivated by numbers.
I can't do math.
I'm not about the ceiling of numbers. I'm about the floor of numbers, which is like, can I get enough numbers to do the thing that I want, and not about can I do the most numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like that's like I definitely, that's like my concern numbers wise has always been, if you are just absolutely terrible at DDO and don't understand synergies and don't understand what your abilities do, is it still feasible for you to fumble your way through the game on normal? You know what I mean? Like if you really don't understand what's going on and you're just happy to be here pressing your buttons, does the video game still function on that base level, or is it just, are we just giving you things that don't work at all? And I think we're very, very far from that. Like DDO might have had a lot of that in the beginning, but now it's very difficult to, if you're trying your hardest, even if you're terrible, it's difficult to make something that literally doesn't work at all.
Yeah, very true. All right, moving on. Next hot take, spicy take in the oven. We have from Kaiju Care, which is that my hot take is that there should be more quests with close to no lighting, like Rainbow in the Dark, which we already talked about, or even light summoning from like Archons and other spells. And we already discussed that a little bit earlier, but about that, quests would have no lighting. I kind of agree with that. I think that a quest that change up gameplay in a really big sense that doesn't have anything to do with numbers is like really nice. That's what I would like.
It's important to change things up. Like that's the number one way to make players happy, is no matter what, just make sure they're doing something different every single day. And like, so that means, emphasis on events. That means quests that do unconventional things. That means abilities that as you obtain them change your gameplay. And you know what quest with no lighting does? Makes you think. Gets you lost, makes you wander around, gives you a fright. Like, I think it's good stuff. I would definitely love to see another dungeon with that exact same mechanic.
I would love to see that too. Can you think of another mechanic that would be as jarring to gameplay that might be fun to see in a quest?
Oh, if you really wanted to scare people, slowly fill a mostly vertical dungeon with water, sort of a thing.
Oh yeah, that would be very cool if the water level could just rise.
Yes,
like some horrific Mario level.
Yeah, or like if it were lava, you know what I mean? Like, it's less like the aesthetic of water and more like building a dungeon space that encloses, you know what I mean? But that would definitely put some pep in people's step, and that doesn't actually have any combat-related stuff. It would just change how you interact with the dungeon, you know what I mean? Because like, even if you're here just to see the sights, you don't have time for that,
Yeah, you gotta go.
You gotta go, you got places to be, like, not the lava.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a dungeon that would affect your control somehow. So like it would, I don't know if this is even possible, but imagine you do one of these like Zorian dungeons or something where you're like in a mirror world, so all your buttons are reversed.
I don't think DDO can handle that. That sounds like impossible.
It does sound impossible. But that's where my brain goes.
Completely impossible. No, I that's a cool one, because like, it's very interesting, because I played a game, Wildstar, that actually had that as a debuff. Like, that was straight up a CC, and it was specifically for PvP.
Oh my god, in PvP? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, like, no, it was like, because like, I was playing a sneaky person in there, and I would jump out of stealth, and I would grab somebody, and then someone would be like, hey, hocus pocus, and that moment, and it's like, it doesn't actually take long for you to figure out what your directions and controls have been changed to. Like, if you're using WASD, it actually takes like less than a second for you to like figure out which way's forward again. So it doesn't stop you for long, but it does stop you enough for you to consider it.
Yeah, I did a charity stream where I had my controls constantly reversed, the X and Y axis on my mouse, and then also the WASD. And whenever it would swap between the two, it would be nauseating.
Yeah,
'Cause
like the
eventually your brain just can't do it.
camera stuff is really dangerous to mess around with in games, I've found.
Yeah.
Like it's like I play this game, Space Engineers, and it was like a hyper realistic gravity sort of simulator thing.
Mm.
And we're building our first platform, and I'm a little jetpack, and I go up. And in my head, I'm like, I'm fine, because like I've never been motion sick in my life. And I press Q one time, which is the pitch button. So I'm like rotating.
Oh, so you can
and
rotate.
As soon as my camera rotated, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like that was insane. I've never actually felt vertigo before that moment, and I was like, wow, if I look into the vortex, I will, like, my soul is gonna fly out of my face. Like there's death, nothing in there but madness, you know what I mean? And like my friends help play Space Engineers without me. But like, oh yeah, it's a nightmare. Like reversing your controls, that's fine. It's a fun bit of CC. Swinging your camera around is like, I think
That would be a
people
little bit difficult.
will contractually owe people money if they vomit on their controller.
Yeah,
you know, like
too much compensation needed.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I think that'd be cool. And as far as the bringing a light back on Archon summons, so like our lighting system can only handle so many lights in a specific space, and the idea that you brought a key light with you meant there would be certain areas where there's too many key lights on a specific dynamic object, which would be really, really, really bad. Now, spells actually do lights because they flash once and they're gone, and the game's really good at like ordering that source of light, and that's fine. So if you really wanted to, you could just fire some rune arms in there, you know.
Yeah, because there's the lightning storm rune arm that when you press it, the entire screen just starts flash because it's 5 lights in a row, and the whole thing just starts flashing on and off, and it's impossible to see even in like daytime areas.
That's bad. That's a bad thing. That's the opposite of what I want, which was light.
Well, anyway, it's really cool. It works. All right, hot take number 14. Moving on. This is from Maha Punavati. And they said that players should start with max Reaper XP and that you subtract earned XP from the total. So the more you play, the harder it gets instead of easier.
That sounds like remove Reaper rewards, except more complicated.
Yeah, it's like the first time you enter into Reaper mode, you have one experience, but then the more you play, the harder it gets.
So, in a weird way, that's sort of how Reaper currently works. Because the more you play, the higher Reaper you're likely to choose, so your game does get more difficult, although it's up to the player to enforce that sort of thing.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, I've been pretty vocal about this. I feel like there's a lot we could do with Reaper rewards as a whole. Like, that would normalize a lot of how rewards interact with the game, and make it a lot easier to group up and have fun, you know?
Yeah.
Because like Reaper rewards right now, like, you know, like the HP is one thing, but like what I also don't like about it is how it disproportionately affects certain playstyles. Like if you're in the melee tree and you're getting like, you know, +2 melee power, that is in no way contiguous to +1 DC, and those are the same amount of Reaper action points.
Yep.
And like that sort of difference puts a lot of pressure onto, like, you know, puts a lot of pressure onto Reaper's reward structure as to how it like it basically means that our reward structure is sort of done class balance, but the trees are designed to be agnostic stats wise.
Right. Yeah.
And there's just a lot of room for improvement. At least they don't cause crippling lag anymore. Like we at least
one step at a time, right?
One step at a time.
Yeah.
We got the system in a place where it's no longer actively detrimental to the running of the game. That's great. That's a solid W. That was Steel Star's work. And like that, I was on PTO at the time, asleep. And like, anyway.
Some point later in, like, you're getting, you know, the Sunday before work, you're just checking, you know, your team's message. You're just like, oh, cool.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So for this one, for me, I think that it's one of those things that sounds good on paper, but it's complete crap once you actually put it into anything, because people like numbers going up and everybody hates numbers going down. Like, no matter what it is, if you play any video game or do anything, when there's a nerf that comes through, people hate it. When numbers go down, people hate it. And every time I tell people, Elder Scrolls Online is a really fun game and you should try it, and it's on sale on Steam for like $3, people come and go, I didn't like that when I leveled up, my numbers went down. Because in that game, your character gains like more strength from their equipment. And so if you're level 5, like the level 5 equipment is a lot of stats at level 5, but then when you're level 10, it actually just gives you less stats comparable to your level. So you have to keep putting on new equipment, and people hate it and they don't even want to play because the numbers going down just makes people sad. So the idea of Reaper giving you like less stats the more you play will make people inherently sad and not want to play it, and also will complain.
Someone in chat said it best. I like rewards, not penalties. And that's like kind of the fundamentals of encouraging players to do something.
Yeah.
Like, players like rewards, so there's got to be some way to put rewards in a place where they aren't affecting class balance, or they aren't encouraging certain playstyles over the others, or they aren't making things too easy or too difficult erroneously. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be some sort of reward system out there that meets all of our design goals, and it doesn't have some of the problems that we've been sort of having with this sort of thing. That being said, like, and this is the real hot take, Reaper would not have been as successful without the trees, and Reaper was fabulously successful.
Oh yeah,
but
100%.
Like,
people like the Reaper trees made a lot of people want to start investing in them and grind out the points. That's why a bunch of people ground out 156. I don't know why they did it, but they did.
Yeah, like that's DDO players are 100%. This is not the only thing that motivates them, but it's very reliable to motivate someone by saying like, hey, if you do the work, your character gets stronger. And that's like the fundamentals of DDO as a whole. Is like you do the work, you do the time, your character gets stronger. That feels good. That's why the game is so compelling.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a way to do that without causing some of the problems that we've been looking at.
Yeah,
like,
a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about, and I see comments in chat about adding timers or something, like so that your Reaper points are comparable to the amount of time it takes to progress through a quest. And I've played other video games before, and all of them have the exact same concept, whether you have timed challenge dungeons, because they're timed, and the idea is you're supposed to get as much damage out in as much time as possible to then also be survivable enough and get through things. And the problem with that is that when every game does that, you just kind of eliminate playstyles. You can't really play tanks in Path of Exile because they're all time-based challenges. You can't, like Final Fantasy XIV, everyone's a DPS in that game because you have to go as fast as possible. Like all these games focus on all-timers, and DDO not having that all the time, and also having cool defensive abilities. Like think about how many setup spells we have. The clouds, the spheres, and all these other things where you might want to plan it out and think about the room ahead. It's cool that we can do that.
It's that DDO is really, really good at giving you unconventional ways to start a fight. And if your only concern is getting through the dungeon faster, then one, this is going to, even more than it normally is, drastically change what content is being played.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are going to gravitate towards dungeons that don't slow them down even more than they already do, you know?
Yeah.
And that's bad, because, like, the more different pieces of content players play, the better, because it shakes up their gameplay and they try new things and they go, oh, this would have been easier if I had this ability. And it's like, it's important that we give them different fun things to enjoy so that they have a lot of things they could possibly do. And like, you know, sometimes when you're playing DDO, you also have to go do other things. Like, I'm an adult. Occasionally I have to do the dishes, you know? Like, what if I'm playing DDO and then like, oh, geez, I forgot I left something in the toaster. You know what I mean? Like, I'm playing DDO, but I kind of want to watch some Steven Universe, you know? Like, it's a video game.
There should be, but this is also something we could do maybe in the future, like some DDO AR or something where for doing dishes, you then are rewarded with XP and DDO. That would be kind of cool.
Only if you do my dishes.
Oh.
You'd have to do my dishes.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that adding timers to stuff, like the reward for going fast is you get more stuff faster. You don't need to add a penalty to time, especially in a game like DDO. All right. I've got another hot take for you. This is from Mr. Firesnake, which is that Vanguard should be a universal tree, as it's a shield build only, not a fighter or paladin focus, as they already have their own individual things. Vanguard, universal tree. Hot take. What do you think?
I have a reverse hot take. Okay. There should be no universal trees.
Okay. That's a hotter take.
Make them all class trees.
That's an even hotter take.
Yes, that's my opinion. Get rid of them. Make them all class trees. I don't care if more than one class is the same tree. I don't want Vanguard to be on every single sorcerer build. That doesn't make sense.
It would be, yeah. I'd play Vanguard sorcerer immediately.
Yeah.
I would do it right now.
Like, get out of there. Harper, I don't know. Rogue, maybe? like Rogue Bard would probably get Harper.
So in your hot take, is it that trees would be assigned to multiple classes as opposed to being fully universal?
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. Like, because like Vanguard's already in 2 places, and that's pretty neat. Like, what if universal trees are just part of classes? You know what I mean? And like we could go pretty broad. Like, it's not like we have to be like, ooh, you're only allowed to use Horizon Walker if you're specifically a fighter. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, everyone who currently has synergy with it would probably get it. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it'd be cool. I think Vanguard is underrated. Honestly, I think Vanguard's pretty goddamn solid as far as trees are concerned. Like, that's got attack speed and it's got attack speed. Like,
yeah, I think Vanguard's properly rated. It's not used all the time, but people use it enough where I get questions about Vanguard all the time. So I think Vanguard hits the properly rated. Definitely not overrated. No capacity is it overrated. Also, I'm 100% going to be. That's a great idea for a thumbnail. It's just a picture of you that just says "hot take: delete universal trees?" question mark.
Oh
Perfect.
yeah, definitely. Delete
Very
universal
common,
trees.
very calming thumbnail.
What was my other hot take? Delete universal trees. The pit isn't that hard.
Yeah, the pit's not that hard.
The pit's not that hard. Or you could even get worse. You could be like, the pit's not that hard. You're just bad at DDO. That would really get me in hot water.
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. Sorry. Say nothing controversial.
Nothing controversial.
Yeah. Multi-class trees. Don't worry. Wave Dasher. It's coming.
Oh yeah, that would actually be really cool. Like, what if like this is like my delusional Fantasyland here.
Yeah.
What if
Fantasyland where you went back in time and redid DDO from the ground up?
Yeah, like before I got out of my time machine as soon as they were about to put Harper Agent in the Universal Tree Array, and I was like, no, it's a prestige class. It's a prestige tree. You got to be a rogue, or you got to be a bard or something, or you got to be both. You got to be both a rogue and a bard. And you unlock the secret tree. You got to do that. And they'd be like, "Who are you? How did you get in the office?" As they call security.
They call it security. And you're like, no, wait, I have a great idea.
No, it's a great idea. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. All right, moving on to another fantastic hot take. We have.
Wait. Can I go back to this current hot take? The idea that opens up a more thematically suitable third tree for them is a point of order. We can make more class trees whenever we want.
Oh yeah, you can. More class trees can always happen.
We can make whatever we want. Yeah. We don't have to only have 3. Sorcerer has 5.
Sorcerer has 3.
As many trees as you want. We can put them in there. You don't need to have 3.
Yeah, and besides, I'm sure on a future episode of DDI, we probably will do one. We already did a Paladin one, and that Paladin one is sick, super spicy.
I want to build. It's really difficult because like the next one we build an Epic Destiny, but then I would just want to build the Epic Destinies I want to build in real life, and then I get in trouble.
Which is why instead we would have a chat vote on it, and then we build what they want.
As long as they don't vote for anything that I want.
No. I would give them limited options so they can't.
Okay.
Put you outside your comfort zone.
All right.
Okay, moving on. Next hot take is from Nereza. Wands should not need to be equipped like a clicky to use their effects. So this should be like a potion effect, where when you use a wand, your character just does the animation.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. I like that.
Yeah. Then pen and paper.
That's a good idea. Like that's just a good idea.
In pen and paper, there's an effect that you can get for Warforged in 3.5, where you can have built-in like wand racks effectively that like embed in the body of the Warforged, and then you can slot up to 5 wands, and then you can just point and the wand effect will happen, so you don't actually have to equip them.
That was my first ever pen and paper character. I was playing 3.5. I was in high school. I played a Warforged. I had wands in the wrists. Like,
yeah,
100%. No, that's a good idea. I don't like wands in DDO. End of sentence.
But can you elaborate?
No, I refuse. No, I don't. I don't like them. I don't like how. I mean, as like, let me back up a little bit. Wands play really fun, and I like their gameplay, but the fact that they are an item rather than just something that's kind of on your character in like an intangible way means they mess with equipping, so no one would use them.
Yeah.
And they also run out of charges, so nobody would use them.
Yeah.
But like Warlock's really fun because you don't just stand there like a dummy while your spells are on cooldown. You got stuff to do. Your character's always moving, and you're always thinking about positioning. And
Yeah.
so you're just like getting them. You're getting them with Eldritch Blast, and it feels fun to be able to engage on your own terms in that particular way. And a wand will let you do the same thing because you're just casting cool spells, and you see your character do cool spells and stuff, and you've got your cool cooldowns and stuff. And like, but wands are bad. They're badly positioned in the itemization, and so they're not usable on a functional level, and it makes me sad.
So like, imagine, you know how rune arms, you like put them in your offhand, and then they have like a little button where you charge it, and then they have this little like charging arc, and then you fire them.
I'm familiar with rune arms. Yes.
Yeah. So imagine you have like another slot in the thing, and then you put a wand there, and then the wand, so wands don't have charges anymore. The wand goes in the slot, and then as a magic guy, you get like a use wand button, and your character does their custom animation for their wand, and it's like boop boo, and they just use whatever the wand is.
So here's my idea of how I would solve this problem as a designer.
Yeah.
One, I would delete all wands from the game. Step one.
Okay, so that's step one. Delete all wands.
Step one.
Yeah.
All the current wands, get them out of there.
Right.
Just drag them right to the trash can.
Right.
Step two, all current caster weapons get turned into a wand.
Oh, so like all the spell power swords and what have you are just wands?
They're all just wands. And step three, wands just cast their spell if it's off cooldown automatically using a regular reticle. And they don't have to worry about charges or anything. They just work. And so if you've got like Twilight, the purple quarterstaff from Caught in the Web, when you click, rather than like attacking, you know what I mean?
Oh, because it's like a quarterstaff,
missile.
it casts a spell. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, if magic weapons could cast spells instead of attacking stuff, that would be both very cool and really hard on the art budget and very cool.
That would be very cool. I think it would be really awesome. I think it would infringe upon Warlock's gameplay on an insanely severe level.
Absolutely.
Like that would just eat the entire Warlock's design space alive. You'd simply exempt Warlock. You just the Warlock just becomes sorcerer, but worse, and doesn't even have its cool thing anymore.
Yeah. What would scrolls be? Scrolls would just be scrolls still. Because you read
scrolls,
a scroll.
I think, are cool. Scrolls can stay.
Yeah.
Scrolls can stay. I don't have a problem with scrolls.
It's just you don't need scrolls and wands.
Yeah.
Because they're both the same thing, but scrolls are better.
Wait, convert wands into weapon slots like Greensteel augments. Hold on a second here. There's an idea.
Oh, Greensteel.
What if that was just
Let's go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, Greensteel, the thing I don't understand. Greensteel, the tagline. I don't get it. Wait, hold on. So, like, what if, hypothetically speaking, if an item has, like, an implement bonus, it also has, like, a separate, like, augment slot that's, like, a wand slot? And then you could shove a wand in there, and it would actually eat that wand into, like, the slot, and then it would be able to be used as a wand, like the big weapon would have that.
Oh, so then you could just choose whatever spell you want to go in your thing.
But you'd need a named wand, which would actually make you want to go farm those out.
Yeah, you need to have, like, the wands, instead of having wands of fireball, you'd have wand of fire whatever, and then you'd slot them in.
That's the kind of the other problem is that, like, if this were like, or it's gonna use like any wand, you know what I mean? Like, one of them casts like Polar Ray, and like, I'll be honest with you, Polar Ray as a cantrip, whenever you click the button, strikes me as really strong.
Yeah, well,
like,
you'd have to make like a bunch of custom thingamajigs.
Yeah, like maybe
and make them scaling and all this other stuff.
Maybe this would require modifying all named wands, which is not that difficult. There's only like 40 of them, and compared to adding sentient to every single item in the entire game, not a big deal. Where like all the wands now have like a thing on them that's like, I'm a wand, and when I'm slotted into an item with like a wand slot, I do this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a good idea.
Yeah, it could be, it sounds like it's one of the things that needs to, you know, it hits a whiteboard somewhere, and then every time you look at it, you go,
Wait,
oh.
yeah. Wait, no, I don't have my whiteboard marker with me. I have a whiteboard right here. That's okay. I'll remember to write that down.
You'll think about it later. It's all good.
I'll think about it later.
Yeah, Cure Wand, that's a bad idea. Infinite
Yeah, that's the
healing
thing
is one of those bad ones.
that's like kind of a rule of DDO that we have that we don't tell anybody about. No free healing. No infinite free healing. Like, don't do it. Don't suggest a rune arm that heals people. Yeah, I'm not gonna build it. Like,
How did Exalted Angel happen? That's not free.
I don't know.
It's a mantle.
I don't actually know what Exalted Angel does.
You have to give up. You have to give up like the other good mantles. Like you'd have to give up like Shirati Champion or Draconic Incarnation or whatever. There's a trade. Moving on, we have. So that was really cool. That was a good discussion. So good. That wasn't really a hot take. That was like a good idea.
Yeah, that wasn't even a hot take. That was just a solid suggestion that
yeah
we worked through as a group.
So there was over 100 hot takes, and about half of them were just suggestions. So I had to cut it down a little bit.
All right, the next one.
Next one comes from Noran, who says reduce or eliminate alignment restrictions from classes.
No.
No more paladin restrictions. No more none of that. No.
Nope. I don't like that suggestion. In fact, I think we should have more class restrictions because restrictions breed creativity. Right now, multi-classing is too easy. It's too easy to splash 1 or 2 levels for low-hanging fruit. Multi-classing needs to be a decision. It needs to have consequences. It needs to be difficult.
Yeah, now it's just take level of Favored Soul.
I don't like that.
I'd take level of Favored Soul so often.
I don't like favorites. I just don't like Favored Soul.
It's like the best class. What are you talking about?
To pick with Favored Soul.
Oh, it's a good class. It's got no bones to. You can't. How do you even? Angels don't even have bones. You can't pick a bone.
What are you talking? Angels are 100% bone.
They got no bones.
You've ever seen an angel before? They're a skeleton.
Like, they got like feathers and stuff. Birds have like hollow bones. Angels got even more hollow bones. They're just not even there. No.
All right.
When it comes to alignment restrictions on classes, I'm inclined to agree because I'm an old man and I like, from ancient prehistoric times when they first invented D&D, the fact that it would be like, oh, you have alignment restrictions. But modern D&D doesn't do that at all. So, I have no idea. Moving on. Next hot take is about Bigby's Guiding Hands, making them either cheaper or available in-game as a teaching tool for mechanics and raids and positioning and that sort of thing. I've always personally wondered why DDO doesn't have like a marking system when I feel like a lot of other games have like good marking systems for talking to people that are just available. And we have hands, but we can't get them. So
that would be pretty cool. Weirdly enough, I would actually say that the thing that we've introduced that does the most is footprints.
The bloody footprints. Yes, people tell me all the time that when I have the footprints turned on, I'm very easy to follow in quests because I zerg a lot, and you know where to go. You just see the footprints.
Yeah, I think like footprints would be cool. Having like a generic marky thing that you got one of, and if you activate it again, it deleted the original and you put the new one down, sort of a thing.
Yeah,
that would be pretty cool.
Because in World of Warcraft, they just have like 8 marks that you can put down at any time, or like anyone in your group, and then only people in your group can see it. But then you can like be like, this goes here and this goes here and stand here.
Yeah, there was also like in WildStar, you could put symbols above people's heads.
Yeah.
You
can do that in Lord of the Rings, I think, too.
Yeah, and the idea that you could mark people with like a red circle versus blue triangle, and then you could put a blue triangle somewhere, and you'd know, oh, I'm a blue triangle. I gotta go to the blue triangle.
Yeah.
Would be pretty cool. Yeah, like I don't have a problem with these sorts of suggestions at all. I think they're really good because it's like DDO's in a place where at the time it was created, the MMO genre was still kind of finding its footing on how to best convey like how players should be able to talk to each other, you know? And so as over time, as communications have evolved, you know what I mean? Like I definitely think that us looking at what's available and seeing what we can bring to DDO would be a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, when DDO came out, video or MMOs are still of the point of like, fuck the players. Like, do everything in their power to make it harder for players to do anything. where it's like, oh, gold, yeah, that has weight in your inventory. It takes up inventory space. Sorry, right? That's when DDO came out. So they were still working on it. They were still working on how to communicate and that sort of thing. So it makes sense that it's not there yet.
I would say that good video games know how to stress you out without stressing you out.
Yeah.
Like, there's a good way of encouraging players to think really hard about what they're doing. And wow, I sure am lost is historically a bad teacher.
Yep. All right. Next hot take comes in from Q, which is a study in Sable is the best quest in the game. Have you ever done a study in Sable?
Yeah, I've played every single dungeon in the game.
Yeah, so vampire quest where you have to solve the riddle and the mystery by talking to all the different people and doing what you can to save everybody and all that. How do you feel about very like narrative driven there's still a lot of combat, but it's not as much. It's not the main thing.
I think studying Sable is honestly very, 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 very good at almost every single thing it does. I think that the werewolf with the Wilhelm scream is comedy gold.
Yes, it's so funny that's in there.
I think that's perfect. I think the atmosphere of the manor is perfect. I think the dumb maze is really funny that you give to the guy. Like, the idea of you're in a central map and different parts open up, you know what I mean? So you have to, like, go into different areas is brilliant. I was actually talking to the designer about this, and there's actually a whole bunch of NPCs in the walls that actually just hold information. So you can actually have information in the instance of like what's been chosen and what's where. So there's like just a whole section of the dungeon that is us using NPCs and script links in order to like hold stuff together, which is really cool.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a beat, but about 3 weeks ago, I went to the doctor and I actually had a blood taken.
Okay.
And I actually passed out for the first time ever.
Very exciting.
Yeah, like they not to get too graphic here, but they put the big scary needle somewhere close to my skin, and I blacked out. And in that moment, I was thinking to myself, wow, like, night sure falls on Sable Manor, you know what I mean? As I like just crumple over. But like that voice line of like, night falls on Sable Manor. You have uncovered one of the vampire's thralls. Like, it's so evocative. Like, those voice lines are just stuck in my head. They're so good. And the finale where you got to bring the vampire into the light, like, that's so good. Like, the whole thing is so good.
So what you're saying is not a hot take, definitely a very like it's accurate take. This is a very cool take.
Like I think that's a perfect example of the kind of absolute nonsense that DDO can do that no other game can do. Like, like it's just what a whirlwind. Like, I love dungeons you gotta look stuff up for. Where you're looking at something and you're like, oh wow, I don't know what the hell anyone's talking about, and like you gotta frantically Google how to do this. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Quite Toxic. This was actually a very cold take, so you're hanging on thin ice, buddy. You might hit a permaban soon, so careful about that one. All right, next take on the list from Smash and Cow comes and he says, when someone's zerging and they pull Dungeon Alert, it should be applied to the people at the front and not at the back, I guess. The people that are doing the zerging. So imagine
how
you're
would
in, like,
the game
dungeon.
know who's at the front and who's at the not front?
Monster aggro?
Does DDO even know what monster aggro is?
I assume that monsters, when they see you, they identify you as a target. So like
it must know, right? Like somehow.
I literally don't know.
I don't know. I've never looked at.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be honest with you. I cracked open Legendary Greensteel because I was like, do rules even work? And then I don't know what Legendary Greensteel's doing. I know even less about the monster and aggro system.
Right.
I've never in my life put together a monster and thought, wow, I sure know what this guy's doing.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
so
probably.
Conceptually, how do you feel about that? Or do you think it should just apply to everyone in the dungeon? Like, you're in a group with somebody who's going fast and like that deal.
I don't really know. I feel like Red Alert is something that the players don't like, but it's something that as a designer we begrudgingly go, well, we've got to put it in or else. So like, I don't know. Should probably slow everybody on the entire shard, just be safe. Like,
just slow the server down.
Yeah, like you're
just walking through Sharn and just like, hold on, there's red alert.
I don't know until you can walk to our data center and hand a nice cold glass of water to our server. Your character should be slowed down.
Yeah, I personally despise the alert system, which is why I kill all the monsters, because I don't like it when everything goes all haywire.
Yeah, we do
Um,
want you to kill the monsters. That's the best way to solve red alert.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it should be applied to just the people that are zerging. It should be applied to your whole party, because like if you're gonna do that, everybody is gonna get penalized for doing that. All right, fun take time. Next one comes from TNR Shaylin, and they said Palemasters shouldn't get negative bypass beyond what they have. You're a wizard, master of spells, prepare and cast something else.
I agree. I also think that the negative bypass on undead is actually really cool, though. I kind of like it. I think that my blanket hate of bypass kind of doesn't really extend to narrow stuff. I think it's cool.
See, I don't like the bypass, and the only reason that I don't like it is that you have to cast 2 negative spells, and the only ones you get that are good are like the ones from like the tree or whatever, or like Necrotic Ray. But you don't want to open with Necrotic Ray because you're gonna fill them back to full health. So what the dream would be is if you could like walk up to a bunch of undead and then the aura strips it off of them, but undead are immune to the aura. Like it literally doesn't affect them. So if you stand next to an undead and you have the aura on, they don't get affected by it at all.
That makes sense.
So
the alternative is that if you're a Palemaster and you don't have this, then you've trapped yourself in the corner with a bunch of monsters you can't stop healing.
Exactly.
So I understand why that's like that.
So because of those things, I'm like, don't take it. Just take Meteor Swarm. It's almost as good. But
yeah, I hear Meteor Swarm is really hot these days.
I see what you did there.
You're supposed to laugh at my jokes. We agreed.
I made faces and pointed at the camera. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the like Palemasters just casting other stuff and using other spells. And we talked about bypass before, but in this case, yeah, it's the same thing. Although, like, I can understand being able to bypass like undead. Some people want like, I want negative to affect constructs and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a robot. It doesn't care about your negative.
Like, if they'd never met a robot before, like, it's not realistic, I'll tell you that.
All right, so I got a new hot take for you coming from, it's a bit of a textbook coming from Tom, and he says, DDO should have scaling stat caps, like ability scores and power and skills and all that, and introduce a way so players can optionally get full rewards from a quest by being scaled down to the quest level. Or like to see a way for players that could be scaled upwards as well, mostly after a good way to let a group of folks together, even though they may not be in the same level range. But scaling stat caps, so like if you're level 10, you can only have like 25 strength or something as a maximum.
I am opposed to stat caps unless...
Interesting, okay.
They're specifically for avoidance defenses. Because as you asymptotically approach 100% dodge, for example, your effective HP goes through the roof. So that actually needs a hard cap. Like, things like dodge actually need a hard cap.
Okay. So but you don't mind, like, you don't think there should be a stat cap on, like, damage?
No, absolutely not. DDO is an entire game about going the extra mile in order to get, like, small incremental bonuses that stack up. That's, like, the whole point of doing the effort, is that you're rewarded with those little bonuses that together make a stronger, more well-rounded character. Having caps on stuff like that means that once you've reached them, why would you continue to improve?
So I was gonna say I kind of like, I personally like stat caps because what they do is they give you the limits of where you should be working. Like, they give you the limits of what kind of stance you should be working within, and DDO is a kind of game that gives you a lot of options for where you can go. You can go really wide with your stats. Like, a lot of other games have like 4 stats. So like World of Warcraft, which has stat caps, has 4 stats if you're at damage. Haste, mastery, crit, and versatility, I think is the last one. DDO has like 7 jillion. You know, you got accuracy, you got your deadly, you got your melee power, you got your seeker, you got your deception, you got attack speed, you know, but then you also got to have your tactics DCs, you got to have all these other things. And so when you have stat caps, imagine if the cap was like, oh, you have 80 strength, a barbarian gets that cap faster, so maybe they put on different stats other than just strength versus a fighter who doesn't get to that cap as fast. And so then they have different amounts of stats. So the stats end up going a little bit more wide. Like how right now I could equip an item that gives me 80 electric resist, But why do I do that when I can put like a seeker item there instead and just hope I don't get hit by lightning? Which is kind of like
You're
the general
changing my
gameplay.
mind here. And I guess it's in my mind. I'm thinking of this from the concept of where I've seen stat caps in the past. They are for games where they don't have DDO's breadth of stats.
Yeah.
Like
kind of think about it like
I say you're definitely changing my mind. That being said, the caps would probably be a lot higher than you used to see in video games.
for
You
sure.
know what I mean?
I think of it like you know how like past lives can get some people bent out of shape because like my sorcerer has like or my warlock has 100 charisma, but somebody playing has like 70 when they hit the level cap, and like what the hell am I doing wrong? Because they didn't spend like 5 years grinding a single character.
Mm-hmm.
If the stat cap was like 80 on the charisma, they're like that much closer. And then I just, because I already have all that other stats, like that extra 20 or 30 that makes up the gap, I just have more wide stats on my character that I've spent more time building up instead. If that makes sense.
And for like enforcing players to go wide helps us cynically because players will make glass cannons and then they'll get one shot in quests and then they'll get really mad. And like they have to be taught that they have to diversify their stats for survivability.
Yeah.
And that's a very frustrating experience for someone who's very used to games where DPS focus on DPS.
Correct.
And like the idea that in DDO you can't do damage while you were dead is very, very different than in more traditional MMOs where like defenses are the last thing. Like yeah. I don't know. I don't think that DDO right now is a game that could abide a cap. Like, this would cause a lot of strife, and I don't think it would get us a lot in return.
Oh, people will be super mad. People will be crazy mad. It just makes me think of like, you know how there was this ability called Meld into Darkness?
No, never
like,
heard of it.
Yeah,
Continue.
you press a button and then you can't die for 15 seconds, and it's like it's like okay, it's like mediocre at best.
You know, I hear that it's actually quite good.
Yeah,
not to correct you here, but I've been told
it was it was a pretty good ability. And one of the things that was nice about it is you could never focus on any defense whatsoever and go all offense. And then if a monster did come towards you, you just pressed the button that gave you all the defense that you needed. And then you could get away with playing a pure glass cannon character because the defense wasn't really important. And I think that those situations, obviously that's like a bit of an outlier, which doesn't exist anymore. And current Meld into Darkness is still very good. And I actually am literally using it on one of my characters. It's one of those like stat caps. I don't know. I just like the idea of working within a finite set of rules that kind of go in somewhere versus just having unlimited. I also personally really hate quality stats. I hate quality stats. Quality is like the worst one. Right? Enhancement, fine. Insight, fine. But quality, I'm like, I don't want to get quality whatever in all my gear.
I mean, I could just delete it. Like it's only like four button presses for me. Just press the remove quality button.
Yeah, just delete it.
Just delete it. No, you're kind of changing my mind here. Like the world in which there are caps on specific stats is a world in which players are numerically encouraged to diversify their builds, and a world in which an enfranchised player and a new player differ in auxiliary stats, but don't really differ in primary stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is an unrelated suggestion to the dynamic level scaling, like sidekicking and malefactoring up and down.
Yeah.
Like stat caps to me strike me as an equalizer, and scaling up and down strikes me as a let's make DDOs grouping better sort of a thing. And like I played a game with automatic super sidekicking, City of Heroes, and it was phenomenally fun. That mechanic is excellent as it was designed. The idea that your party lead determines the level at which you're effectively fighting at means that even if you're a low-level character, you can still participate in high-level things. And if you're a high-level character, when you participate in low-level things, you aren't blowing them out of the water with your character. Like, you aren't just obliterating them. Yeah. And there's still things that you can do. Like, in that game, had like, you know, that game had powers that you enhanced, and those enhancements often had auxiliary bonuses. Like, they're very similar to how filigree work. So, like, imagine, if you will, you scale down, and your stuff gets weaker, but you still have your filigree bonuses, and those don't scale at all. So
Yeah.
like that actually becomes the edge between you and like a less enfranchised character, because your gear will de-level, but your filigree bonuses and set bonuses stay or something, you know.
Yeah.
And like, so you would still be stronger because you're a high level character and you put in the work and you grind out your sentient weapon and you got your gear, and that gives you that sense of like, oh yeah, I'm a real cool tough person. But it's very very big difference between bringing a fully geared level 30 and a level 30 that's been essentially scaled down to level 10.
Yeah. Well, it's like the same. That's how like it works in Elder Scrolls Online. Is that the entire game is scaled to one stat scale,
Mm-hmm.
and so like everyone fights monsters that have 10,000 hit points. So if you're like the max level or whatever level, and it's all just the percentage of damage you deal to that individual monster. So if the first dungeon is level 10, then level 10 players have like 6 abilities and they haven't maxed anything, and then they don't even have most of the spells yet or anything else, and they do whatever, and they can beat that dungeon. But if you bring somebody who's at the maximum level and they have all that stuff sorted out, they're still hitting the monsters for like about the same kind of, but they have like all the spells and they have all the attacks and they have all the things, even though the stats are like sort of comparable.
I mean, it's important to keep those things too, because
Yeah.
that way, when a new player looks at an established player that's a higher level, they aren't seeing the same character that they're playing. They're seeing like, wow, what was that spell? Or wow, you're really tough. And it gives them the incentive to go like, huh, if I dedicate myself and I work really hard, I could be in that position.
Yeah, I think of it as like you kind of see the character that you're going to be someday. Like you're the level 1 fighter and you play with the level 30 fighter and you see them like trip a bunch of guys and knock them down. You're like, oh, I can't wait to do that. My cool powers and cool abilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, scaling up and down is certainly easier mechanically than it was before we changed our loot system.
Yeah.
Because if I were a really smart guy, I'd be able to build something that scales your loot's eye level. But like, I think I'm overthinking it, and I should probably just scale damage up and down by a flat percent. That's what City of Heroes did. They didn't overthink it. You gotta not overthink things in video games. Like, if the end result is you want things to do less damage, just hit them with the percent less damage. Don't get into the weeds about what gear does.
Exactly. Just hit him with that.
Yeah, like simple solutions.
I got some more hot takes for you if you want some more hot takes.
Yeah.
We got a few more left. We got next one, which is hot take: half-elf is the best race in DDO.
I don't think that's true.
I also heavily disagree. Both aesthetically, the half-elf update, they look good, okay? They're
They do
good
look
looking.
good.
They're a good looking race, but I can't hit half-elf is the best race in DDO. Everybody knows Warforged are the best ones. It's really obvious. We're all on the same page. They are the best ones.
Warforged are exceptionally cool. They're exceptionally cool.
Yeah.
No, it's like 2021 is just been a phenomenally good year for DDO.
Yeah.
Just the idea that we've finally revamped the epic game, that we finally fixed all the stats at the end game, and like the half-elf revamp and stuff like that, and like it's just like feels really good. And we have this really solid 52 coming out that I've like I'm just so excited for. It's just like nothing but quality of life. And like it's like players have always been like, oh, when's the bug fix update? You gonna ever put in an update that's just bug fixes? Well, like, yeah, it's this one. It's 52.
Yep.
And like realistically, I know that players are gonna forget about it immediately, and they're gonna not actually like that. The great success of the bug fix update is probably not. It's not gonna be
Very
compared to
short-lived.
compared to revamping all of the epics in the entire game. But I'm just excited about it. I'm excited that the idea of someone saying half-elf was the best race in GDO, and we're not sitting here going, yeah, but they're really ugly.
True. Yeah, I don't know. I can't call half-elf the best one, especially considering they still also don't look as good as wood elves do. They look great.
Wood elves look pretty good. Aesmar, I think, are the best sculpt.
Oh, I like
just their faces. I think look the best.
Oh, not. I like tieflings. I think tieflings look the best.
Tieflings do look really good, specifically the twisty ram horns, the ones that are straight.
Yeah, I like those.
Those are my #1 horns. I love Tiefling's facial hair and their spiky facial hair. I think that's phenomenally good. I like that we were able to support long and short tail.
Yep. I like the shifters as well. A lot of people don't like them, but I really like that you can get like the lion's manes on the different shifters and the hairstyles. I really like the way the shifters look.
I think that the shifter animations are the best part of them. I think that's really where the animator on that absolutely nailed it.
Yep.
Like watching somebody play a Razor Claw and playing a Razor Claw, I think this is like just really good. Like it just looks good. It just looks really solid. It looks dynamic, and you're jumping around and you're slashing people. Like, yeah,
the howl is awesome. Where they like kind of like rah, and they both their arms go out. It's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, moving
on. Changelings are already a race.
Yeah, they're already in the game.
They're already in the game.
Just pick one at start at spawn. Yeah, when you make it. You can't tell because you look like something else, but it's there.
We were. This is like a DDO secret vault here. Is we'd be building Changeling, where it would you'd get to like you have like a Changeling version of something, and you'd be sort of like, for example, say you're playing like a Tiefling shaped Changeling, you get the Tiefling out like the Tiefling shape, but you get the Changeling tree.
Oh, I see. So you could look like whatever race you wanted, but then you would just have the changeling tree.
Yeah. The downside is that your race and like what you're walking around as, that avatar, is so insanely fundamental to what a character is in DDO.
Yeah.
Like that is the foundation, that is the backbone, the bottom of what a character is. Like all of the data is built on that. So the downside of this would be you'd have to pick a character creation and you'd never be able to change unless you reincarnated. And I feel like that would just really do a disservice to how changelings are aesthetically.
Yeah.
Like that it wouldn't be a good solution. I think that would just disappoint people.
I agree. That would not be that great. Moving on to our next hot take, which is that 2-weapon fighting is the worst fighting style for leveling, and the animations are insanely slow, and to shift to a new target, that sword and board is a better leveling style.
Well, sword and board is cooler, so I do agree with this on its surface.
I included this as a hot take because I personally it got thumbs up, and I personally think it's wrong that sword and board is definitely worse for leveling than 2-weapon fighting is. Because 2-weapon fighting, you got two weapons, cool. You're chopping through people and stuff. It's really good.
But shield is so cool looking.
It's very cool. I like it. I think shields are cool. I play Vanguard and other things that don't. Do I play anything that's No, never mind. I don't play anything else that uses a shield that isn't a Vanguard.
You never played a swashbuckler in your real life?
I have, but usually it's with rune arms or the open hand or orbs.
Yeah, when I built the offhanded versatility feat.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like open hand may actually be really good. Like I think that was just I'm really happy that made it into the game.
It's extremely good. I've made 2 character builds using the open hand. Both of them are paladins.
Yeah. You mean worst fighter?
Oh no! I wrote one for this hardcore league. Okay, I gotta hit you with this. Okay, so
all right.
Somebody wanted I was doing the hardcore build guides, and somebody was like, "Hey, can we have a chains build?" And I was like, "That sounds good." People like using the shader Kai and the chains. I got the chains shirt. Buy one now. If you want a chain shirt, please buy a shirt. And so I was trying to figure out how to get it to work. I was like, what if you just mix like Favored Soul in there and use like Vistani Knife Fighter, because that would be like pretty sick. And you get the Favored Soul deity stuff, so you can actually cast the spells and do kind of like a monk rogue hybrid sort of thing. And then I was like, you can't use Blood of Vol because they're from Forgotten Realms. That doesn't work. So an hour later, they came up with a 10 rogue, 7 Favored Soul, 3 monk, open hand, single weapon fighter chain thing for Hardcore League. And I don't know if it's good or not, but it takes a long time to say. So
that sounds great.
If you want to follow that, yeah.
I love builds that you just start saying words and then someone goes, that's great, but you're not done telling them what the build is. Because there's more build in the title. Yeah,
it has to keep going, and we're not done yet.
It has to keep going. I love that.
Yeah.
What's what are you using monk for in this?
So the idea is with 3 levels of monk. So 2 levels of monk gives you 2 feats, which can both be like toughness.
Are you just taking the like Grandmaster of Forms all the way up?
So it only goes for Master of Forms because I couldn't fit in the last feat. But you get go dexterity to hit and damage, but because of the rogue stuff, And then you have 7 levels of Favorite Soul, so that way you get the Favorite Soul 10 hit points and the 100 for Epic. And you get Close Wounds, which only caps to maximum cast level 5, but you get 5 extra caster levels for maximum from Epics, so it's actually cast level 10, so it's really strong for healing. And then the 3 Monk gives you 3 things. So it gives you 2 feats, which you can take Toughness. You don't need the Evasion, but that's not important. You get the key attack, where you like get health back when you hit people, which is like okay. But most importantly, is it lets you use Grandmaster of Flowers, and then you go Grandmaster of Flowers, so you're this chains guy, and so what you do is you run into the group, and then you go with the Drifting Lotus Slam, you slam everybody on the ground, then you whip chains them.
You've only said 2, you said Monk and Favorite Soul.
And Rogue.
And
Rogue is the backlist, 10 Rogue.
10 Rogue, okay.
Yeah, so you run up to people, and you slam them down with the Drifting Lotus, then you double chains them, and if they're still alive, you hit them with the Split Soul, and because you have the good or whatever thing, you get like 50% concealment and incorporeality and dodge and all that, and you're just like super tanky and you can't die, and then you can everything is nothing people because it scales off dexterity now.
Do you think this video game's too fun?
We
gotta scale this down a little bit. Sounds like you guys are having too much fun.
Epic Destinies are kind of too fun.
Too fun? Yeah.
Yeah, Epic Destinies have like really changed up my fun that I've been having, so it's been good.
I'm gonna say something really stupid. How come Lord of the Rings is getting a major update? No update for DDO? Is this game dying or something? Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, DDO died a while ago.
You heard it here first.
That's why there's 131 people watching on Twitch about a video game that died already. That is definitely not
We're
getting
coming out with an update
a new league, a new hardcore
weeks.
season in 2 days, and a new update in a week.
Yeah, like we're almost there. We're put like. No, of course it's not dead.
Yeah.
Nonsense. That would really mess up my career. That's for sure.
Also, Lord of the Rings isn't getting a major update. They're getting major bug fixes because the new expansion's full of bug fixes. Or full of bugs. It's really good. There's so many bugs. That's because it's in an underground cave and there's bugs everywhere. And then I've got another hot take for you. You want one?
All right.
Hot take.
Hot take.
There should be a ding when you reach a Reaper level.
I agree. I will add that for 52. I will put that on the whiteboard. I don't have a whiteboard marker.
Because I find what happens to me is like, I thought this is not actually a hot take, it's just a good suggestion, but there were not that many hot takes.
Give me just 1 second.
For sure. But yeah, just to answer the question about like, well, compared to Guild Wars 2, yeah, but Guild Wars 2 has like an army of people working for it, and DDO gets 4 updates a year. So like, if 4 updates a year isn't good enough for you, and that means it's a dead game, then like, I don't know, I guess, go do something else.
DDO is doing phenomenally well.
Exactly. We literally get 4 updates a year, so.
Like this is
like individual patches, but that's like big content drops. Like the next year, there's a new expansion coming out with them dinosaurs or whatever, with the big teeth and other things that you get.
What was the other thing I was gonna put on this whiteboard? It was really important.
Oh,
wands.
The wand thing.
Wand augment slot.
Yeah, the wand thing. Yeah.
Wand augment slot, and this one is Reaper level ding.
Yeah. Yeah, Elazar, all I got for you is that I'm the biggest content creator for the game, and Linabel's a developer, so we're not going to give you, like, the game is bad or having a bad time.
I'm the hugest DDO fanboy you will ever meet in your entire life. I love this game.
Have you seen the bag of money that I got? I don't think so.
We told you not to put that on the camera. That's right in your contract.
It's like you weren't supposed to see the bag of money.
You weren't supposed to see that. If you panned the camera over, you would have seen one of us with a big fake mustache and like some horizontal stripes. You know what I mean?
And like the Monopoly hat or whatever with the cane, being like,
oh yeah, with a big monocle.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's just like, I don't begrudge somebody giving me a suggestion that I look at and go like, yeah, that's a good idea. And you know what that is, Wagon? That's a good idea.
That's a good
idea. I'm gonna make that happen. I don't know how. I guess the question is, what color? Because like Epics is purple and Heroics is white, even though the XP is blue. What color is Reaper?
Red.
Red.
Yeah, because it's like blood or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Reapers are the scariest ones, and they're red. And...
Let me hit up one of our artists to make me this new asset at 9 p.m. on a Monday. I need the level up ding for 50. It's incredibly important.
Yeah, because what happens to me is like in the first few levels you check all the time when you're like between like 1 to 20, you're like, oh, I got a new Reaper point. But like when I'm at like 50 whatever, I get a new Reaper point after like 70 quests. So like I just don't check, and sometimes I look and go, oh cool, I got a point.
No, that's, you know what that is? That's really important. That's a good thing to add. You know what else we should do now that we don't have 15 types of XP and epics for no reason?
Yeah.
Wait, 16 because there's the 4 karma and then the 12 epic destiny thing.
Yeah.
The XP bar should flip over to Reaper on both of these.
Oh, if there was like a Reaper XP bar you could track.
Yeah, I'll put that Reaper XP bar.
Oh, if you could track the Reaper XP instead of, because you can, it still shows you the Destiny XP as a thing. Just change it up. Just change what feeds into it.
I mean, I thought we fixed the Destiny thing. That was in the patch,
did you?
wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't click anything, so I have no idea.
No, I had to delete the button, and then I had to write specific code because I was in my head. I was like, first step 1, delete the button, and then the step 2 was, we gotta fake press the button if you're on the wrong thing, because if we just delete the button and you're on the wrong thing, it'll permanently leave your XP bar in the wrong state.
My favorite thought about this is that step 3 is now undelete the button, so we can add the Reaper thing back.
Oh no!
You gotta undelete it. Yeah, you need the button back. But
I take it back. This is a terrible suggestion.
But you could get one of the art guys to make a little Reaper skull thing when you click it, so it'll show it.
No.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
No, it's over.
Oh god. I'm sorry. Well, here, I'll move us on to the next hot take. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm out of takes.
Wait,
That's
just check the Git. We use Perforce, not Git. Oh wait, we're out of hot takes?
Yeah, we're out. That's it. That's all I got. That was everything.
Jeez.
I bled everybody dry, and that's all the hot takes we got. Yeah.